Hey, everybody, stop working. It's time for a lunch break. Proudly brought to you by Groove Fishing, changing the way you do tackle. Sunline, the best fishing line on the planet. And Spro, makers of the finest tackle available. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the lunch break here at the Live Well Podcast, Tuesday, March the 3rd. We're already into March. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a decent Monday. I know the start of the work week is always tough, but I hope you're plowing through it. And we look forward to having a conversation with you guys. Got a great guest for you today. Actually, Jason Muhlbauer with the Fish School. I asked him to jump on. We're going to learn a little bit about the Fish School, and we're going to try to get some juicy tidbits about Lake Allatoona. So in the comment section, I saw you guys there: Coleman, Doug, Doc, Eric, Cam, Jeff. Coleman says, if you know anyone selling a 2500 diesel, let me know. He's looking for an older one right there. So we'll keep that in mind there, Coleman. But again, thank you guys for stopping by. A couple of things I want to take care of real quick. I know last week we had talked about doing some stuff for Jonathan Farmer. And I just want to go ahead and tell everybody that Jonathan took some time over the weekend to talk to his wife, and of course, with work and everything, and just kind of weighed everything a little bit. And he is not going to pursue it. He's very appreciative of the fact that that's what we wanted to do for him. But I have to understand that as well. Life is more important, and he's at this point where he's really busy with a house he's building, family, work, and everything. So just the fact that you guys were willing to step up with us and help out meant the world to him. I don't know yet, we may find somebody else. Um, See, Tom, Nathan, Alex, what's up, Greg, Diaz, and everything, Tracy Coker. All right, so let me go ahead and pull my guest for today up here onto the stage. You guys know how I love screwing around with these buttons, but here he is. There we go, Mr. Jason Muhlbauer of the Fish School. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm literally taking a lunch break to join you today, so I appreciate you having me.
Oh man, not a problem at all. So, real quick for everybody that don't know, let's just go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the Fish School, and then we'll jump right into conversation.
Sure. I'm Jason Muhlbauer. I'm creator of the Fish School. The Fish School is really my kind of dream project to bring all of my seemingly random skill sets and background together. I've got a degree in meteorology, so some people have known me as the weatherman. They reach out for weather reports all the time. I've spent about the last 11 or 12 years working in the GIS realm. GIS is Geographic Information Systems. So I've been responsible for making maps and layering information for my clients so that they can make informed decisions based on all sorts of factors. I've worked in the engineering space, I've worked in the healthcare space, all really kind of location specific analysis is what I've done. And then I've also loved to fish. I've fished my entire life, and I kept just looking for that perfect, job listing, and realized, it doesn't exist. So one day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start the Fish School. I've had this idea for a while where, I can kind of get into like mentorship and bring fishing, meteorology, map making, cartography, all these things together in a way that kind of satisfies my need to use all these skills of mine. I'm also an FAA certified drone pilot on top, and I incorporate that into a lot of my footage as well.
Okay, I like it. Now the weather thing, I remember when you first got started, seeing some of your posts and all that, and you've had a lot of fun here lately. If you're into the weather.
Yeah, it's been a good winter for some storm chatter, if you will. It's been just a lot going on for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so your lake, I would say your home lake's Allatoona.
Correct.
Fair enough, like that. I'm looking in the comment section. Cam, he said the south end of Allatoona was blown out horribly this week and had me questioning my fishing skills. Spent 10 hours out there with only two spots. Shake my head. that happens, Cam. You're not alone with that. So don't feel like, don't ever question your fishing skills. And then Diaz says we caught him in the dirty water south and clear water on Allatoona Saturday. Caught my PB spot 4 pounds
Mhm.
each. So one thing with tuna. Now, granted, we're up here by Lanier. Everybody knows Lanier is the lake that drives the ship in North Georgia, but Allatoona is
Right.
coming on. And
Yes.
one of the things that I find really hard is getting guys to talk about Allatoona. It seems like
Right.
guys that know it, man, they're hush hush.
Right. Yeah, Lanier is obviously the greatest spotted bass lake in the tournament spotted bass lake in the country, in my opinion. But Allatoona has really come on strong. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was all that long ago where 10 pounds, if you had double digits, you were showing up to weigh in, with a little bit of swagger and some confidence. And now that's not going to do any good. So it's not going to compete in terms of Lanier, but it really is a great fishery where you can catch a lot of fish, and the weights are really getting up there. But it's so versatile. You can do so many different things in Allatoona, and I think it's a little bit underappreciated in that aspect.
Yeah, I'm looking at Caden O'Neill fishing. He says we caught a good bit in the middle of Iron Hill, plenty of fish on bait out there. Now,
Correct.
so my next question would be bluebacks. When we
Yep.
talk Allatoona bluebacks, when we first started this podcast, people wouldn't even admit the bluebacks being in
Hmm.
Allatoona, and now they're there. They're changing a little bit. How have
Yep.
you seen the blueback herring change the spotted bass, especially on Allatoona?
The topwater bite seems to have just gone crazy, in my opinion, especially in the summer. I don't remember the summer topwater being as good as it has been lately. I remember more like fall was a kind of in October was a good topwater time, but now it just seems like the topwater bite is so strong throughout the summer, and you can just tell when you're catching some of those fish out in the middle of the river channel, and they're not as big as all the Lanier spots, but when you catch, 3+ pound spotted bass and they are just fat, they have the shape of a Lanier spot. Like that's when I start to think like, okay, this may be,
Mhm.
because of the bluebacks.
Oh yeah, that listen, the Lanier spotted bass is undeniable. But
Mm-hmm.
but we have noticed, granted, of course, we have the Fish North Georgia group page when guys are posting pictures, and we follow all you guys, and we see the pictures you're posting. The guts on
Mm-hmm.
the spotted bass on Allatoona are they're getting there. They're starting to look really good. And
Right.
I'm gonna skip a couple of comments and I'll go back to you guys' questions. But like Diaz said, there was a 23-pound bag weight on the Sunday team trail in Allatoona 2 weekends ago. Now
Right.
this time of year, and I've said this for the past several years, Allatoona puts out some monster largemouth bass in the
It does.
pre-spawn in the spring. So it does help those weights. I don't know how many uh largemouth were in that 23-pound bag, but
I
now
think
that
it was all largemouth. I believe it was all largemouth.
was it all largemouth? Well, you start getting where you're getting some 3 pound, 4 pound spot averages and a few good kicker largemouth, and those tournament weights are going to go up.
Right.
What are you seeing on the water right now? Have you been fishing primarily for spots? Are you doing shallow looking for largemouth? What is the go-to right now on Allatoona for either one of those techniques?
So what I generally try to do, it really just depends on what my clients want to do. Sometimes they'll come to me with very specific things they want to do, so I, just focus on that. But if I'm going out by myself, just say a fun fishing day, I'm generally trying to look for these groups of spotted bass that are really pushing back into these pockets and coves and, eating tons and tons of bait fish. They're very easy to catch, and you can really have a great day when you land on these fish. It seems like in March, there's a lot of dead water, if you will, where there's just not much going on. And then you pull into a pocket and it seems like it's absolute insanity with fish blowing up on top. And it doesn't matter really what you throw, you can just catch a ton. And that's what I experienced this past Thursday when I went out. By I think 10:30, I had maybe one fish that I caught, and then I just stumbled into them and had probably the best afternoon I've ever had on Allatoona. Just catching all spotted bass, and they were just on bait fish. Didn't matter what I was throwing. Now I went out this past Sunday, and one of the comments was that the south end was trashed. Like, yeah, it had come up about 4 feet. There was debris, pine straw leaves all over the place. And in those changing conditions, I felt that on Sunday, like, hey, we need to go do something else. We're going to go look for some dirty water. It's getting warm, it's getting sunny, but we're going to find that dirty water that isn't littered with pine straw and leaves, and we're just going to go fish dirt shallow. We had a pretty good afternoon doing something totally different than what I was doing on Thursday. So I think in March, like, you really got to keep an open mind and really stay on the move. That's the thing I can't stress enough. Do not get stuck just in one little area thinking you need to slow down. I always elect to move to a different place rather than change a different bait color or change to a different bait.
I got you. So how far down is the lake still?
I don't remember. I know it came up 4 feet from what it was this past Thursday. It's still got a ways to go. I want to say it was about 10 feet down, but don't quote me on that. I think that's about where it was, though.
Okay. And for those of you watching on TikTok, for some reason, it's not letting me pull up the comments. If you want to make a comment, I apologize. You'll have to switch over to YouTube if you got a question for Jason. Now, Patricia does have one. And since you're a meteorologist, this ought to be a pretty good one. How does high and low pressure affect bass?
So there's a bunch of different ways that it affects bass, because those things affect wind. They can be impacted by whether there's clouds. But generally speaking, I think fishing either like as a front is coming through or before the front comes through is generally better than after that front comes through. So lower pressure, typically better fishing. Higher pressure, a little bit more of a challenge, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Tom, let's see his little comment here. I thought about producing my lures for fundraising and searching fishermen to fish it. Hey, make them. Make them go for it. And I'm sure we can find somebody to throw your lures if you want to do that. Derek Spicer said he caught 10 fish on the south end of Allatoona this morning. Water was really dirty. And, like guys like Jonathan Farmer, and a lot of guys, dirty water, man, that's their time of year. They love
Right.
dirty water in the spring. Titus did say it was all about largemouth. Um, it was all largemouth, that bag
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Caden, let's see, Caden O'Neill. They eat topwater a lot better, especially the Sprome Chrome Popar 100%.
Mhm.
100%. Any good Chrome is a good one. Now, Tony, this is probably referring to the blueback heron. Anytime DNR denies something exists, go ahead and know that it indeed exists. Bluebacks, Panthers, and Bigfoot, 100%. And on the Bigfoot thing, Eric said, Bigfoot did in fact stalk the bluebacks in Lake Allatoona. So I love it like that. So um, Tom's got it. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Here we are. I didn't want to miss Cam, my buddy Cam right here. And guys, say throw the questions out there. That's why he's on here today. Why don't you see or hear of anyone throwing topwater in the springtime? Seems like if they were feeding up and aggressive, they would smack the crap out of a buzzbait or a chopo. And I think a lot of guys pre-spawn, they don't think about topwater. But you can get some really good bags on topwater this time of year.
Yeah, I went out with my son a couple weeks ago, and we found them kind of pushed back into a pocket. Another day where we covered a lot of water, had 2 fish, and then kind of heading back to the ramp, we pulled into a pocket where I'd caught them before, and they were blowing up everywhere. And we could have caught them on top water. The water temp was 48 degrees that day. There's no doubt in my mind that if I had a buzz bait or a chopo, something like that, I could have caught them. Same with this past Thursday when I went out. They were also blowing up on bait, and it's not really like the water temp doesn't have to get that high. I think the water temp was low 50s this past Thursday, and you absolutely could have caught them on top water. Now the top water strikes don't seem as violent. Like sometimes you'll see these schools of fish blowing up, and you could see them from a quarter mile away. That was not the case. But once you got around them, you realize, hey, they are pushing bait all the way to the surface and blowing up. Maybe something like a jackal riser would have been good on Thursday. My problem was I just didn't have it tied on. I had so many other rods. It was like, I'm just going to stick with what I've got on the front deck.
If you were going to go out there today and throw topwater, what would your bait of choice be?
Probably a buzz bait. When I went out this past Sunday on the north end, and some of the pockets, the water temps were 61, 62. Now, I'm not saying that they're up there spawning right now. In the afternoon, in that dirty water, they'll warm up really, really quickly. But I think like a really, really kind of slow buzz bait could trigger some big strikes right now.
Okay. Let's see here. Jason, could you comment on calm wind and weather reports. So I guess anytime we get a calm wind and you're going to be on the water, and
Mhm.
again, you can keep talking Allatoona or any lake you want to talk about. How does that affect the way you approach it, whether you're fun fishing or whether you're putting clients on fish?
Yeah, I generally prefer to fish in the wind. I know it can be harder, especially if you have an aluminum boat, like you get blown around and pushed around a lot. So I certainly understand that. But if I have a choice, like outside of a time where I'm trying to sight fish, I want it to be windy. I think it adds some camouflage to the angler. They don't, hear as much. I just think, it just hides you, your boat, and what you're doing a lot better when it's windy. Also, if you start throwing some lures with some flash, I think the kind of the ripple on the waves and all of that just helps you get some more bite. So I prefer to fish, in the wind. If you have a dead calm wind, it's just so much easier, I think, for them to identify, like, hey, there's someone, something here, and it's harder to catch them. Now, with the weather reports, I've heard people say, "Hey, it was supposed to be a calm wind today, and it's still kind of blowing." You have to understand that these weather reports, like, they are mostly coming from data that's located at airports, right? So if you think about, hey, where are all the airports? It's not like there's an airport in the middle of Lake Lanier. You don't have really good data points to say what is the wind going to be on Allatoona, Lanier, any lake, really. So with the weather reports, like, they are pretty good considering the amount of data that we have going into these reports. My general rule of thumb is take the wind forecast that you see on your free weather app, just multiply it by 1.5. If you multiply it by 1.5, you'll get a better, I think, sense of what you will experience out on the lake in the big open expanse. You're going to experience air moving much differently than people in the woods where you got trees or houses blocking things. So I think it's always just going to be a little bit windier out on the water, at least seem that way. So if it says, hey, it's going to be 5 to 10 mile per hour winds, take those numbers, multiply it by 1.5, and use that as kind of your expectation of what to experience when you're out there.
I like it. He's making us do math, guys, and I know that's not our strong suit. But Tyler Shelnut, what's up? Caden O'Neill, he's said hello to Tyler. There you go. All right, Tony said I started fishing. I started throwing a buzz on no takers, but the water temp screamed buzz bait. The fish I did catch were shallow, but still real cold. It's here,
Mhm.
boys. Yeah, it is. Um, Charles Britt wants to know, Danny, I got a question. Do you prefer homemade Cincos? I don't want you buying a store. Listen, okay, when it comes to Cincos, and then of course, Jason, if you like throwing a Cinco, you can comment on this. My preference is I will throw a Yamamoto if it's in the right color that I want. There's certain colors I use on Allatoona or Lanier. There's that one monster shad color, 297 chart, something like that. That I got. I love because spotted bass love it. Um,
I
other
do
than that one,
like those Senkos or Yum Dingers. I like them
yeah,
both. I think Senkos
yeah.
are the softest.
Yeah, 100%. Other than that one, I don't mind using a homemade one, a yum dinger. I got bunches of all different sorts. But if I am on Lanier or Allatoona, I'm gonna throw that Yamamoto first. And then if I'm over here on like Latham or Hickory Log, a little more largemouth bass kind of lake, I probably will go with more of the Yum Dinger style because I go through them so fast.
Mm.
But hey, and if you want to make some and send them to me, I will fish them 100%. Tracy Coker says he doesn't mind a little wind either. It's the hurricane force winds that are a little difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Good question here from Messick. Have y'all seen any beds already? There's a few in South Carolina starting to pop up already. I have not heard anybody around here talk about seeing any beds. What about you, Jason?
I haven't seen any. I think I got to look when the next full moon is. I thought it may be at the end of March. I haven't seen any. Also,
I,
where
I,
I would be seeing them has been dirty water. So
yeah. So I think we just had the full moon last night. We had that blood moon or whatever it was, or whatever. It was an eclipse. So I think we had something like that, but I didn't get up to go see it. Um, but yeah, I would say probably a few weeks, just based on history. The fish on Lanier won't be spawning until late March, early April. They're still super deep. Now, here's you another question right here. I'm glad you guys are throwing questions out here for them. When you are fishing the wind, do you focus more on banks where there is an onshore wind or just wind in general is better and not so much the direction? Does it matter which way it is blowing for you?
So for me, the rather than say, hey, I'm going to fish a bank or this thing in the wind, I'm still going to go try to find areas that I believe the fish are at. So what I do is say I'm, in a creek and I've had success lately and I've seen bait and then I've seen fish, I'm going to go fish that area with the wind and just feel like the wind is going to give me the opportunity to get some more bites. Generally, if wind is pushing back into a pocket or cove or into a bank, if I had caught fish there, have a reason to be there, then I'll stay there. I'm not just going to make my decision on where to fish based on the wind. I believe that the wind will give me an advantage in catching some more fish in areas that I've already identified have fish in them.
Gotcha. Good answer there. Tom says calm wind. Calm wind, period. Excuse me. Draw fish shallow, muddy sediment settles the cloudy water, enhances topwater bites and spawning bass. So it is coming. And then Mike Geiger said, saw a couple of beds getting started on Lake Burton last Sunday. Only one or two, and there was nobody on them at the time. They were still cruising. And let's see. Now, 355 Salty. Appreciate you joining us, but he says, I can't catch jack shite. Listen, hey, you ain't the only one. I got my butt kicked on Lanier a couple of weekends ago. So just hang in there, buddy, and it's coming. It is coming. Let's see. March 3rd, full moon, and the next one is the beginning of April. Tracy Coker says, fish a wind-blown pocket. Okay. All right. So with the bluebacks being on Allatoona, I'm sure you guys are utilizing a lot more your forward-facing sonar than guys have been in the past and everything. How are you seeing them set up on Allatoona right now? Are they still extremely deep, shallow? Are they scattered? What's the bait doing?
So back in the winter, I was using my sonar, including forward-facing sonar. We were catching them, 50, 60, even 70 feet deep. And now that we're in March, like I can go check some of those exact same areas, but they're at 25 feet. Some of the bait is a little higher, a little lower at times, but a lot of the bait is in that 20 to 30 foot zone. And the fish will either be in them, and every now and then you'll have fish that are, only 5, maybe 8 feet below the surface, just swimming around, hunting some of those kind of random little balls of bait that have kind of broken off from the major, groups that are also up really, really high. So you can go out in the middle of the river channel and just look around. And if you see birds or just you've seen bait in an area, you can use your forward-facing sonar, just literally scope around, look out in the middle, and you can catch some of those, high suspending fish that are just cruising around out in the open.
I got you. I knew guys would jump on lunch today and have a lot of questions about Allatoona. I told Jason before the show, I was like, Allatoona is a great lake. Boy, it is hard to get people to talk about Allatoona. They are tight-lipped. Doug wants to know, how close do you think the fish on tuna are to moving into the flats?
So I guess I wonder which flats, we're talking about, outside of Galt's Ferry, there's a lot of what I call deep flats and there's kind of fish there all winter. There's birds there the other day diving around, but they really just follow the bait. Wherever the bait goes, these groups of fish will go. And I'm not talking about, largemouth that are just their own thing, but these groups of hybrid stripers, white bass, spotted bass, they're just going to go wherever the bait goes. So 1 hour they may be on these deeper flats, and the next hour they're totally gone. They move so quickly. That's one of the reasons why I tell people, like, just stay on the move and don't get so focused on one particular spot, one particular area, or even one particular lure. Just be very, willing to run to the next spot.
I will say this, usually one of the electric clubs I fish once or twice a year, we always fish out of Stamp Creek and everything. And if it's a spring tournament, and let's just say they may be on bed, but maybe not, a lot of guys always start talking, and this is really an Allatoona thing, at least from guys talking to me. This is when the Carolina rig on those flats really comes into play, pulling a little, and they all say the same thing, a little 4-inch Zoom lizard and watermelon red or something like that. You ever mess with the C rig any?
Yeah, I do actually. And then March is one of the best, Carolina rig times that I've ever had out there. Back when my current wife and I were dating, I remember going out with her one March and just stumbled into a fantastic Carolina rig bite throwing. I think I was throwing the 5-inch green pumpkin lizard, but we were on that day, we were targeting kind of these sandy beach areas. And they were just really had, pushed up into that 10 to 15 foot zone. And it was a bit windy that day, if I recall. And we caught fish all day, and having that heavier Carolina rig just made it a lot easier to fish.
Yeah, 100%. Tony says, say it louder. The game fish follow the bait
Yeah.
for sure. Eric's got a question. What will you look for on Allatoona as the spots start to spawn? Spud poles are a big deal on Lanier. Spud poles. I ain't never heard it called spud poles.
Yeah, I'm
But
not sure what spud pole is.
I would say reef markers, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
But not as common on Allatoona. What is your thought process for the spawn on tuna?
So when I'm targeting spotted bass on Allatoona spawn, it seems like it's just really easy. Just pick a bank that has scattered rock and some clay, and just fish it at, fish your worm or whatever you want to drag through there as shallow as you can. Maybe work it halfway back to the boat into that 10-foot zone. Reel it in, make another cast. It is one of those times of year where you can just make it really, really simple. Put on a worm, fish it shallow, and just go down the bank.
Is it like Lanier? Because when the spots spawn on Lanier, you can throw something within 35 yards of them. For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, they're going to hit it if it's in the
Yeah.
area. Unlike a largemouth spawning, you got to put it in the bed.
Yeah.
Same thing on Allatoona.
Yeah, and they're really aggressive. I've gone down the bank with like a fluke, for example, throw a fluke, and you can almost get these spots to, if they don't hit the fluke, at least reveal themselves. Then someone follows it up with a worm and throw it right where you saw them, and you can catch them. So they do seem to be very aggressive.
Okay, so he did explain what a spud pole is. It's a dock pole. The
Hmm.
ones that hold the dock still are spud poles. Okay, I've not heard that terminology. Seems like I should have, but my bad. Appreciate that. Now, Diaz, and I want to give you a chance to comment on this too. I highly recommend Jason for a guided trip on Allatoona. If you want to learn something or just catch fish, he will put you on them. He's very knowledgeable and a great teacher. So, if somebody does want to go out with you right now, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can go to thefishschool.com, has all my info and my rates and all that info. So just go to thefishschool.com. You can check out all my different offerings. And I appreciate Diaz. We had a great day learning one particular technique that he wanted to improve on. And we just had a great time on the boat. I really do want to focus on teaching. Teach, lead, fish is kind of my motto. And, I tell people, like, I'm not a striper guide. I'm not a live bait guide. We'll go out, we'll try to catch as many fish as we can. But what I want to do is teach someone something that they can bring with them to their next trip when they're on their own. I don't want to go take you to some honey hole where you catch them, and then in 2 weeks you didn't improve anything. I want to take people out so they can learn specific things and really think about, like, hey, why are we fishing this particular spot or this particular thing? Walking through the entire thought process of what we are doing every time we make a move.
Gotcha. All right. So Clint Bartlett is in the chat now. I bet you got some sore ass legs this morning. He ran that marathon yesterday.
I saw that.
That's impressive.
Yes.
Impressive. I don't even like driving 24 miles. I bet you I don't drive that maybe once or twice a week. Do I even drive over 24 miles in a given day? Because everything's so close to me. But Clint, absolutely proud of you, dude.
Yeah, that's
He,
fantastic. I don't mean to cut you off. I ran 4 miles this morning. I'm trying to work on my fitness, and I was thinking about his post. I'm like, okay, I'd have to go how many more miles to do a marathon? I don't know that I could do that.
yeah.
That's impressive. So awesome job.
He's been working his butt off for the last year doing it. And I still remember when he said he was going to do it. I'm like, marathon, huh? But by gosh, he did it. So
Congrats.
anyway, a prop bait is the slowest topwater bait you can fish. Nobody throws them. You know what? I do know guys throw them, in my experience, more on largemouth lakes than the spotted bass lakes, but I'm sure they work. Anytime somebody's talking about it to me personally and all that, it's generally on a lake that's got largemouth. That being said, right now, Jason, if you were going to Allatoona to target largemouth, the heck with the spots. You want to go catch the 5 biggest largemouth you can catch right now. What are you doing?
I'm gonna have a Picasso Gen 2 shock blade. I'm gonna have some big spinner bait, I'm going to have some version of a, either, 4 to 8 foot diving crankbait, maybe even a square bill. And I'm going to go try to find the cleanest, dirtiest water I can find. What I mean by cleanest and dirtiest, I don't want that water that has, pine straw leaves all in it. I kind of want it to be a little bit settled. I don't care how muddy it is. I want to be able to work a bait through it effectively. And I'm just going to go really start on the pockets that are on the north side of the lake, the ones that are protected from these, cold fronts. So the north side of the lake, find those pockets and fish as many of them as I can. I also think that the afternoon can be a little bit of a better bite at times this time of year. So if I am on any other kind of spotted bass or bait fish type things, I may do that in the morning and give it a try for a couple hours, then just go all in on those shallow largemouth.
All right. So when you're talking about chatterbaits and spinnerbaits and all that, what colors are you throwing?
So I really like black, but I'm not, a big, I don't know. I don't worry about colors as much as other folks. I really think that being in the right place and finding the aggressive active fish is the most important thing. Like some of the water we were fishing this past Sunday, it was orange. I'm just not sure that like any flake or any particular couple strands of this color or that color really were going to matter. I think we got our baits in front of these fish and they ate it. They reacted. So I really try to prioritize, hey, let's find the right fish to pursue rather than specific colors. And I think some people think I'm crazy, but I have confidence in a white chatterbait and just as much confidence in a red chatterbait. I don't care. Give me either one, and I'm going to fish it. I think the location and where you decide to throw it is more important.
Okay. Now this is just for me. I noticed something on Facebook. It was yesterday or Sunday where Brad Latimer was talking about, he made a post something about we've conditioned ourselves to throwing red just in the spring. And it
Mm-hmm.
is true that that's the only time of the year we really do talk about red
Right.
baits, but guys throw them year round.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do we overthink color too much? You were just talking about that.
I think so. I think we overthink it. I mean, we get so specific on colors, and then you actually look at a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, like, what does this even look like? Oh, I don't know that a couple strands of this or that is going to make much of a difference. I think that there's just something about certain baits, certain times that trigger fish into eating. And part of the reason I say that is because when you stumble into certain groups of fish, now this is more related to spotted bass or fish chasing these bait fish. I'm convinced you could put a treble hook on a spark plug and cast it and catch these fish. I've fished an underspin before and had the bait come off, and it's so chaotic. I don't even put a trailer back on. Just keep casting, keep catching. So some of these things have kind of helped me decide. Like I just don't know that color makes all the difference. However, if there's two people in a boat, we're both fishing, and one person is clearly out fishing the other, then yeah, I'll make a change. But going into it, I think color may be, I think, overrated a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I've got Cody Stahl coming on tonight. For those of you that don't know, he won on Kissimmee Bassmaster. I believe it was an EQ. I double check myself, but I believe he qualified for the Bassmaster Classic in 2027. He is going to be my guest tonight. One of the topics we're going to talk about is following the fish this time of year from their, wintertime haunt to pre-spawn, spawn, and all that. When somebody comes out to you, let's just say I'm going to book a trip with you tomorrow, and I'm like, I want you to show me fish movement. Where are they going to be? Where are they now? Where are these fish going to be? Let's take some spotted bass that are currently, somebody mentioned earlier, sitting in 45 foot, and they're still around bait. Okay, that's March 3rd. It's warming up a little bit. Where are those fish going to be in 2 weeks? Then where are they going to be in a month? How would you go about teaching me that?
So side scan is, I think, my most effective tool that I use when I take people out. My mapping is very, very important too. But if I had to have one type of sonar to identify like fish movement, I think it would just be side scan. And what I tell people is that any given day, anything could happen. It's hard to say definitively like, hey, these fish are going to go from here to here, and say it with confidence. But we can see like trends over time. So one of the things that I try to tell people out on trips is, like, say we're going to go pull into a creek. I may start graphing, and we may graph for 100 yards. If I don't see anything, I'm going to get back on plane for 100 yards, stop again, and kind of very methodically go through scanning this area. When I finally start to see bait, I'll put a waypoint on my graph, and then I will graph all the way through until I stop seeing bait. And I'll put a second waypoint because I want to put some bounds on where this entire congregation of bait is at. That way, over the course of a week or 2 weeks, I can go back out and say, all right, it started here last week, and now this week I've noticed it's 100 or 200 yards farther, into the creek or out of the creek. And that's what I will use to determine, hey, in 2 weeks, I think they'll be back here, or maybe, going from 40 feet, maybe they'll rise up to 20 feet. But, with fishing, every time there's a rule, I feel like there's 10 exceptions. So I tell people, like, don't worry so much about the rules. I kind of use them as guidelines and still go out with the expectation that even if you were on them yesterday, like, you may have to find them again today. And don't stop fishing. Don't start fishing until you actually have a reason to stop somewhere. Use your electronics and particularly side scan to see where the congregation is at.
That's pretty smart right there, dude. Eric wants to know, do you feel like scent matters much, or does it not make a difference to you? One of the questions we talk about a ton on this channel.
Yeah, I have no idea. I was talking to someone the other day on my boat. I was like, dude, I've got every scent known to man. I don't ever put them on because I just forget. Like, I forget that I have them. I would say that yes, scent matters. I also forget to put it on. So I've got all sorts of sprays and dyes and all sorts of stuff. And I'm just really bad about, putting that on. But I would think that it does matter, or
Okay.
could help.
Could help for sure. Let me ask you this. What is the number one mistake you see an angler make when they get on the boat with you?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about like a tournament seasoned angler or just someone coming fishing? Because if someone gets
both.
Okay, so if someone gets on my boat and it's winter, I guarantee you they're underdressed. The number one mistake is apparel. That's more for the person that just wants to get out and go catch some fish. If I bring a middle school, high school tournament angler, they have a much better sense. But I could tell someone, like, hey, dress like we're going to a ski resort and you're about to go snow skiing, and they'll still show up in jeans and a hoodie. So that's mistake number one. The other thing is that I think people just really focus too much on a spot. Hey, like, let's go find a good spot. Mm-hmm. And it's just not, I don't think about fishing that way. And I think if you do, think about fishing that way, you have the opportunity to have some really bad days, because eventually you're going to run out of good spots. I approach it very differently. I tell people all the time, have a reason. And particularly if you could have 2 or more reasons to stop and fish a spot, then do it. But if you don't have at least 2 reasons to stop and fish a spot, keep on going, keep graphing around, and think analytically about what are the fish doing? Where should they be? Make some kind of guesses here. And then when you finally either see something on sonar, you see birds diving, or it's, the water temp 63 degrees and it's April, you can go fish shallow, but have a couple reasons to go fish a spot, not just put the trolling motor down somewhere because you caught them there a year ago.
I like that. Very, very, very good answer. Tom says March, April are very windy months. Calm days are less frequent with more intense sun. The bass move deeper along rock. I really think about light blue spinner baits during that time. And listen, and I bet you've caught fish on those light blue spinner baits and you got confidence in them. I bet you do 100%. Now, Eric says, with Allatoona being so clear, and I want you to answer how clear it is, do you use leader much? If so, what leader knot do you use? This is a live well case study. We always talk about that. Anytime I get somebody, an angler on a guest, they start talking about that spinning rod, braid to fluoro, I always stop and say, okay, what knot are you tying? So I want you to answer that. But also, too, Lanier is like stupid clear. Mm-hmm. Is Allatoona that way right now?
No, well, the south end of Lanier, I think, is generally a lot clearer than Allatoona. Allatoona does get clear, but the south end of Lanier is ridiculous, like crazy clear at times. But yes, I am using fluoro, a leader to a braided main line. And if I am tying a leader that I want to come through the guides, I'm going with, I think it's the Albright knot. I think that's the thinner one. And then if I'm throwing a big top water, for example, or a big wake bait, I'm using 50-pound braid to maybe a 15 to 20-pound mono leader, I'll tie the Alberto. I think that one is a little bit bulkier. So yes, I do use those two knots. And yes, I am using a leader. Could be anywhere from 8 to 12-pound test on a spinner rod, and then 15 up to 20 if I'm throwing bigger baits on a bait casting rod.
One thing that Clint, he's in the comment, and Ken Pruitt, myself, we went up to the Bass University event up in Anderson, uh, and Emil Wagner was up there talking, and I think it was Emil who used to go very light on the leader, and
Mm-hmm.
now I believe it was him. He said the smallest he uses now is 12 pound, and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel it makes a difference. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's times where fish do seem to get line shy, but I think those are kind of rare situations. So for me, it more depends on like where am I fishing. If I'm fishing for schoolers and they're out in the channel, I have no problem using 6 or 8 pound tests. There's nothing there that's really gonna mess up my line. I'm not gonna get hung on anything. But if I'm fishing a wacky worm and I'm around trees or around docks, I have no problem going with a 12-pound leader. I want more confidence that I'm going to be able to get that fish out rather than
Hmm.
getting bites. And 8-pound test, it doesn't take much to turn that into 4-pound test. If you get a couple nicks here or there,
Yep.
even if the spotted bass, I mean, we all know like some of those spotted bass have sharper teeth than others. You get what spotted bass that is good, make your thumbs bleed. Imagine what that's doing to your line when it chokes a wacky rig and turns. Like it doesn't take much to break that. So I think if you find the right fish, they're very aggressive, whether it's 8-pound or 12-pound. For the most part, I don't think it matters. Now, if it is crazy calm, crazy clear, sure, maybe go a little bit lighter, but I don't think like it always has to be 6, 7, 8-pound test. You can go a little heavier.
Yeah, for sure. Farmer says the only other lake around here that's clearer than the south end of Lake Lanier right now is Burton. And Burton gets stupid clear as well. Let me give you a couple more here before I have to let you go. I have a hard time getting bit in dirty water. I love fishing the ultra clear water. Makes you a better fisherman. All right, dirty water. Let's give him a couple of tips for this time of year. He's fishing Lanier a lot.
Right.
So dirty water is kind of like, dirty water on Lanier is a little bit different. But if he could find a good stained pocket, that stain that we really like, what are some of the things that you're going to start off throwing to try to catch some bass? And let's use this time of year right now.
Yeah, so I think I would rather fish warmer dirty water than colder dirty water. So I mentioned earlier like the pockets on the north side of the lake. In a typical cold front, like when we have these spring cold fronts where it goes from 80 degrees, down to 30, 40, the wind is blowing generally from the north, maybe the northwest, and the pockets on the north side are going to be more protected. So those are generally going to be warmer pockets than pockets on the south side. So if I'm looking for dirty water this time of year, I'm starting on the north side of the lake. And I don't mean upstream, downstream. I literally mean north, like on a compass. So you could still be on the south end of the Lanier, find a north pocket. And I'm going to start there, but spinner baits, chatter baits, crankbaits, those are my go-to. Even some lipless, baits can be good, but I'm going to try to cover as really much water as I can. I really like a big single Colorado blade spinner bait. Just something that's going to put a lot of vibration out there.
Okay. And Wonk 82. God, I love your guys' names. Wonk 82. What should I throw in Weiss right now? Now listen, Weiss is probably that stained water that we're talking about right now. So probably the things that you just said would work.
Right.
Spinner bait, anything putting off some vibration. But I haven't fished Weiss hardly at all. Have you fished it?
But so I used to fish it a lot more. I had a buddy that lives out that way, and back when I was on the UGA fishing team, we would fish Weiss a lot more. It's been a while since I've been out there. However, the grass was always a big deal at Weiss, and maybe those same type baits. But it always seemed like if you could find the right grass on Weiss, it was worth pursuing.
Okay, and I'm gonna give you this is one more question. This is for me. we're going to be warming up this week.
Mhm.
But you being a meteorologist, I've seen some long range things that we're going to have another cold snap here about March 12th, something like that. Is that going to affect the fish? We having these warm days, water's warming up, they might be moving up. And then all of a sudden, when we get like a really good 2, 3, 4 day snap of some really cold weather, which happens in March in Georgia, how does
Yeah.
that affect the fish?
Yeah, so I definitely think it can hurt the shallow bite. Now, it may not hurt it. Like, say that cold front moves through in the morning, and you have a day where it's in the upper 40s, for example. That particular day, you may be able to still catch them just fine shallow. You may be able to catch them really well. In fact, it'll be windy, just kind of a lot going on. But that second day after that cold front hits seems to be when, like the pressure really builds, really high pressure. That's when I try to target the fish that I had been graphing, like kind of out in the middle. Those deeper fish that are still on bait, if they're in the 20, 30 foot zone, I just think they're a little bit more dependable in those really, really kind of high pressure cold front type environments. So I definitely think it impacts things, and I will typically pull off the bank a little bit and target more of those suspended fish after bait.
Okay, good deal. Now, for your socials, where can people follow you on your socials?
Yeah, so if you go to thefishschool.com, it has all the links to everything, including social medias, it has phone number, email, all that info. So if you go to YouTube though, it's at the underscore fish school. That's where I try to post most of my video content, and Facebook is also at the fish school, Instagram as well. But all that is listed on thefishschool.com. And if anyone has any questions, I'm approachable and reachable. So let me know what I can do to help.
Absolutely perfect. And I think if you don't mind, Mike, maybe every few weeks, maybe every 3 weeks or so, I can get you to jump on here so we can kind of at least get an idea of what Allatoona's doing,
Sure.
if you don't mind, because it is like of all the lakes we talk about, Allatoona is the toughest one to kind of keep up with, like I said earlier. So, Jason, I appreciate you jumping on. I know you got a lot of stuff to do, and I'm gonna finish up the show with the guys after I let you go. But thank you very much. Good luck with fish school,
Thank
and,
you.
and I hope business is good. And we look forward to getting you on again, buddy. I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. All right, guys. Hey, listen. What did you think about that? Uh, I think on this lunch show, it's going to be really cool to start getting some guests to talk about some of the lakes. And we're really surrounded by a lot of talented guys that have businesses. But also, when you think about Jason, he's got he's a weatherman. He's a weatherman and can talk about those things. And we really do give the weather guys a hard time on here because we always tease that's the only business you can be in where you're wrong half the time and you're considered really really good. Uh, I've been kind of keeping up with his stuff, watching his posts and the things that he's trying to do, and hey, listen, he answered a lot of great questions. Whether you believe what he had to say or not, or disagree or anything, what I like when I ask a guest a question, whether it's on the big show or this lunch break or something, and they answer it, boom. I really like the confident answers. I really like, hey, this is what I feel. Now, if you agree with them, great. If you don't, then go, so well, you can take some of that information and kind of, you can at least try it, right? I think Allatoona is that lake around here that is on the up and up. Really hate that they drain it down so much during the wintertime, but it's on the up and up. And the cool thing about it is every spring, every spring, there are two lakes, in my opinion, where on our social media, on our Facebook page, on the group page, we'll see people posting big largemouth in North Georgia. And Allatoona's that lake as far as the big reservoirs. Yes, Notley's got them, Lanier's got them, they got them, but Allatoona seems to be able to kick out some, I'm just toads. All right. And on the electric only side, Hickory Log is that lake for me. You will see everybody, we call it Dinkery Log, and we make fun of Lake Allatoona. We always call it like the Dead Sea. It's not dead no more, but we've always talked about that's Allatoona special, right? But in the springtime, man, Dinkery Log, which is Hickory Log over there in Canton, Allatoona, there's something that you guys, if you'll pay attention over the next 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to see some big, big largemouth. coming out of Allatoona. And what's really cool is now that with the blueback heron, the spots are really absolutely they're changing the game. Um, Geiger, I'll talk to you about that here later on. I'll shoot you a message. Bass time with D, I said he's got good insight with the weather and how it affects bass fishing. And I'll be honest, guys, that's not my strong point. I don't really have that many strong points, but that's definitely not one um, that I'm really good at thinking, putting all the knowledge, right? We just go fish and have a good time with it. But yeah, he is on a deep level. And it's guys like that you want to pay attention to. So make sure you go to his social media and give him a following, right? Give him a follow, keep up with the stuff, book a trip with him. We want to help support these guys and maybe you can go learn something. Um, Now, again, while I got a bunch of you on still, tonight on the live well, Cody Stahl. He's from Barnesville, Georgia, another young Georgia angler that's making some waves in BASS, right? And again, qualified for the 2027 Bassmaster Classic. I'll get his thoughts on that. I believe, and I don't want to say this and mess it up, but I believe on Kissimmee, he won by the biggest margin in a Bass Opens or a Bass EQ in history. Now, I might be wrong about that, but I believe it was like 22 pounds or something like that. We're going to talk to him about that. So it's going to be really cool. Um, Spring is my favorite time on Allatoona. It can make you a hero for sure. For sure. The size in Allatoona has made a comeback since they stocked the F1s in the lake. Look, I've always enjoyed fishing Lake Allatoona. Now, I've liked fishing Lanier better. But I've always enjoyed fishing there because Allatoona was that one lake around here. You can catch fish. You can catch fish on Allatoona. Now, if it hasn't changed, you could catch fish. You could take a kid out there and catch fish. But anyway, all right, guys, listen. Hey, really cool little quick show today. Start the week off on the lunch break. Again, tonight, Cody Stahl. I'll be back tomorrow. Um, I'm going to try and get those kind of guests for the lunch break just to kind of give you guys a little variety so you ain't got to listen to me talk for an hour every single day. Um, Clint said excited for tonight's show. Dude is a hammer. Never talked with him before. Interested in hearing his story. I've never talked to Cody either, but he's got a couple. Like if you pull up Bassmaster stats right here, total tournament. And again, they say on the elite, this is just Bass Opens and stuff. 49. He's made a classic appearance. Finished 19 times in the money. He's won 3 tournaments. Top 30 finishes 22. Um, he can fish. And he's from Barnesville, Georgia, young guy. So I'm really looking forward to picking his brain. And again, I asked him what do we want to talk about? He said, hey, let's talk about following fish and let's getting them from right now into the pre-spawn and into the spawn. So anyway, guys, hey, listen, appreciate you guys stopping by. Love it. Every time I hit it and you guys show up, I'm just like, I can't believe it. Um, but join me here in about another 7 hours. Clint and I will talk to Cody and we will have a good time with it. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day. If you're working, don't work too hard. Be safe going home. If you're outside fishing, looks to be a decent day outside. I haven't made it outside yet, so might take the dogs outside for a minute and relax. But I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tonight. Appreciate you.